Before we start, I'd like to recognize our sponsors. First is Learnix, one of our bronze sponsors. Learnix is a free Google Chrome extension that allows students to document their research journey. As students search, Learnix captures their searches, their sites visited, the amount of time spent on sites, as well as any notes they may take on their websites. All of this can be exported into an organized note page, an auto-generated bibliography, or a snapshot report summarizing their journey. You can learn more about them at learnix.com. It's spelled learnics.com. Next, we have Advative Learning. They are a 501c3, a nonprofit dedicated to making education personal and accessible for every learner. Through their collaborative partnerships, dedication to innovation and commitment to personalized learning, they aim to make positive impact in transforming education and empowering educators nationwide. You can learn more about them at edvative.com. That's edvative.com. Finally is Nedla's friend, Rod's Pulse podcast. In his podcast, Dr. Rod Murray explores topics related to e-learning technologies. You can find his podcast at rodspulsepodcast.com or anywhere you find podcasts. Nedla is a nonprofit organization committed to promoting digital learning for all. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or learning more about the organization, you can email us at douglas.koch@nedla.org. And now, without further ado, I'd like to pass things along to Samuel Mormondo. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I just want to first welcome everybody to this presentation. AI has garnered a lot of interest, obviously, since its release in November of 2022. And we've been doing a lot of work in this area. And I just want to say from the outset that we are in this learning journey with you. We are by no means experts in certainly the back end of AI, but even as much as we dip our toes and our hands into AI, we know we're just scratching the surface. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Sam Mormando. I'm the Director of Technology, Innovation, and Online Learning for the Garnet Valley School District. I've been with Garnet Valley for about 10 years. Before that, I was an instructional coach and classroom teacher, and also an adjunct professor of communications. Garnet Valley, if you're not familiar with it, it's about 20 minutes or so southwest of Philadelphia on the border of Pennsylvania and Delaware. Great place, great school district, super innovative, forward thinking, have awesome teammates who I work with. And a lot of what I'm going to share today is the result of the collaboration that I had with them, from our school board to our superintendent's office to our faculty and staff and even our students. Besides Garnet Valley, I'm also the founder and executive director of Advative Learning. And Advative is a nonprofit, as Doug mentioned, that gives me and some other members of our team an opportunity to not only take the work that we're doing at Garnet Valley and spread it nationwide, but also to give me an opportunity to go visit and work with schools to bring back what they're doing really well to the school district where I work full time. Because I have this belief, and I always had this, that if you're in education, we're in this fight together. And it makes no sense to me that we're constantly reinventing and duplicating the work when it's much easier that if we come together and we share this and we collaborate in a way that makes all of our jobs easy. Advative gives me the opportunity to do that. I was fortunate enough to earn my doctorate at Widener University. I did my dissertation in the fall of 2022, and I can't prove this. However, I can make the case that I may have been one of the last people to ever write a dissertation without the help of AI. Now, I'm not bragging because I know certainly if I had the AI tools, my dissertation would be a heck of a lot better than it probably is. But I think it's a pretty cool thing to be able to say that I was probably one of the last people to do that. Moving down that list, because of the work that I was able to do in my team through Advative and Garnet Valley, we were awarded the Innovator of the Year award by the United States Distant Learning Association. And that we take great pride into that because the pandemic was difficult for everybody. And the work that we did leading up to the pandemic really helped our teachers at Garnet Valley and elsewhere manage that drastic change in our lives. And then Um, the last piece there, as you can see, we published our first book in the fall of last year called Effectively Designed Instruction, which is about being proactive in how we're thinking about going into lesson planning and instructional design, whether it's face-to-face or online or blended. And I start with that biography. Number one, I'm super proud of those accomplishments for myself, my team, and the colleagues I work with. But number two, I recognize that everybody here is giving up part of their day, right? It could be their lunch, it could be some other part of their day. And I want to make sure that you're in good hands, that we take this stuff seriously. We're passionate about education. We're passionate about leveraging AI tools to make ourselves more efficient and to really personalize learning for the students that we have that we're in charge of. So I wanted to share that as well. So today's agenda, we have three real components to this afternoon. One is we're going to share what we're seeing in schools today. That's K to college. Most of our work is in K to 12, but we do work with some higher education organizations and institutions through workshops and keynotes and webinars like this. So we do get a sense of the culture and the concerns and the challenges in higher education as well. We're going to spend just a brief time on the benefits and challenges with AI. This is constantly changing. I'm guessing if you're here today, you know a lot of those benefits and challenges. We may have some folks that are new to AI, and we want to make sure that we're touching on those topics as well. And then finally, today's topic, the bulk of it is using AI and the potential of AI to really personalize learning for the students that we're in charge of. A few housekeeping items before we begin. We're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So to do that, we'd like for you to use the chat feature to answer any questions that we pose or just to interact in other ways. The Q&A feature is also enabled. So if you have a question about a topic that we're presenting on, or maybe the question that we haven't touched on a topic, please throw it in the chat, or I'm sorry, throw it in the Q&A, and Christine and I and Doug will certainly do our best to answer it. Today is the first part of a two-part series on AI. Today, we're talking about personalized learning with AI tools. On Thursday, we're going to be talking about how to make ourselves more efficient as educators, as administrators, as teachers, and the like. The last thing I'll point out on your slide is the website, advative.com/Nedla24. There's a QR code there as well for you to have a copy of today's slides. We'll also update Thursday's slide deck there as well. And there's a bunch of free resources for you to take away. So to kick today's webinar off, I want to pose a question to everyone. Of the four topics that we're going to talk about this week related to AI, which one or ones for you is most interesting? Which one do you want to learn more about? Which ones do you maybe have concerns about? A is what's happening in other schools. B is benefits and challenges that we're seeing. C is AI tools for personalized learning. And then D is AI tools to maximize efficiency. So if you wouldn't mind taking just 30 seconds or so, put in the chat A, B, C, D. A, again, I'll go back. A is what's happening in other schools. B are some of the challenges we're seeing. C is tools for personalized learning. And D is to maximize efficiency, which will be Thursday's topic. Okay, so I see a good mix. I see a lot of Bs, which are some challenges and some benefits. Good. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for doing that. So I want to start this first part of the webinar with what we're seeing in schools. And again, we have an opportunity, unique opportunity to work with Garnet Valley staff and students. There's 1,000 or so staff, 400 teachers plus auxiliary staff. We have about 4,000 students. And then we have an opportunity to work with schools all throughout the country. We partner with through Advative. So we really get a sense of what's going on in classrooms. And one of the main things that I see with AI is teachers, educators, not just teachers, all educators, tend to view AI as this binary choice. They either view AI as the fire-breathing dragon that's going to burn down the world, or they see AI as the knight in shining armor that's here to save us and to fix all of the issues in education. And to be completely transparent, I've been on both sides of this. So when AI first came out, I immediately saw all the benefits. And I went, this is unbelievable. It's a game changer for me as an administrator, as an educator. I can use this to do everything that I really struggled with in the past. And then the more I learned and the more I was able to get my hands into I started to see it as that fire breathing dragon. And I started to see the risks that it posed to students and to a school district and to just in general and humanity, the environment we'll talk about in a second. But where I am today, and I'm pretty comfortable where I am, I'm somewhere in the middle. I see the benefits. I also see the challenges. I also see the incredible opportunity that AI brings to educators to do things for the first time that we really haven't had the ability to do and we always wanted to do. So I see it for that. I also see it as a potential issue for a lot of students and a lot of families and a lot of schools that if we don't get ahead of it and start having conversations now, that we're certainly going to pay the price down the road. So my work at Garnet Valley and elsewhere is to kind of balance both of those things, bring these tools to our teachers, train them up on how to use these tools, at the same time have conversations with students around the ethics and appropriateness of using AI when and where it's appropriate. The second thing that I see, and this isn't true just to AI, it's true in change in technology in general, is what I call the anticipatory anxiety. It's that heightened fear about events or situations before they happen, right? So when we first brought iPads to our classrooms or the internet, think back to then, people were really anxious about what potentially could go wrong. And as educators, we're constantly looking for what could go wrong because we want to plan for those instances so they don't happen. But when AI came, it immediately caused a lot of anxiety with teachers, administrators, school boards, parents, students. And they what tends to happen is you start to make up things that are ridiculously impossible to happen or so far-fetched that it's really not worth your time even thinking about because there's other more pressing issues that we need to address. And what happens a lot of time, at least in my experience, is when there's that heightened fear of anxiety, it causes people to do nothing. It causes people to maybe block AI in their schools or cause people to not use the technology or learn about it that can really benefit them. We do the best that we can to try to anticipate this anxiety that we know is going to happen, whether we're meeting with our school board or our administrator colleagues or just our teachers. And this anxiety's been around forever, right? It's not unique to our world and our culture. Here's a quote that's attributed to Plato. And his thing was the invention of writing will produce forgetfulness in minds because people won't be practicing their memory. And then even into the Middle Ages, the printing press was used, and there was some anxiety around there because it was going to make people more lazy and less studious. So the anxiety's been around forever around this change in this technology. And there's a lot of reasons I believe there is. We won't have time to go into it today, but just know that if you fall into that category, you're not alone. A lot of people certainly fall into the category of being anxious about this. Another thing that we're seeing is teachers are concerned that AI is going to replace their jobs. And I totally understand the initial reaction around this. I couldn't disagree more. There's nothing, in my opinion, that's more personal, more human than teacher-student relationship. Like, just think about all the human interactions a teacher has with students every single second of every single day. They're constantly reading body language. They're constantly probing, asking questions to see if students are absorbing and understanding the content that the teacher is delivering. They're constantly looking for different ways to make connections with students. Teachers are the best role models in most cases for students. So AI doesn't have the capacity, in my opinion, to replace teachers. So I understand the concern, but I believe that education is such a human endeavor that this is something I don't necessarily think we need to worry about. At the same time, I'm going to quote Scott Gallo, who I follow, NYU professor. AI won't necessarily take your job, but his belief, and I believe strongly as well, that someone using AI could or will. So for those reasons alone, it's imperative that we start to learn and embrace this new technology, whether it's AI or something else, because we never want to get left behind. We never want someone else to leverage these technologies and do the job that we're doing, just maybe to a different level, right? The other thing that we're seeing, and Christine Gumpert, who's on the call with me on the webinar, who will introduce herself in just a minute, she likes to say, let's address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is AI will cause students to cheat. And absolutely, we get the concern. I am not trying to minimize the concern at all. I understand it. And in some cases, it's accurate and true. Not too long ago, I think in February, this survey was released of the top 10 challenges for instructors in higher ed. And if you compare on your screen 2022 survey results to 2023, if you look at pre-ChatGPT, those challenges for instructors in higher ed, providing timely feedback, identifying high quality materials, providing practice for students, adjusting content level to meet the student needs. Those things existed 2022 and years prior, and their concerns, their challenges, because they're not easy things to address, right? In any classroom. And this is geared towards higher education, but I think it's not too much of a leap to assume and make the connection that K-12 probably falls right in line with this. But then you look to 2023, and you can clearly see a 28% increase from 15% of instructors in higher ed considering preventing student cheating as a challenge to now 43% saying that's their number one issue. So again, this is clear and obvious to me as someone who works with teachers all the time that this is absolutely a concern. Now, one of the things that I want to do is ask you to go back into that chat, if you wouldn't mind, is everyone's different in their opinion of this. And I'm just curious to see where you believe in your role, where do you fit student cheating in terms of the top challenge for you? Is this number one, as it is for a lot of faculty, or is it somewhere else down the list? So I see Dominique somewhere down the list. Samantha, same thing. Caitlin down the street. Okay, awesome. While we're on the list, Alexa, awesome. Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed because the teachers we tend to work with, the instructors, this is still a main priority, right? So it's great to hear. Now, I do want to say this, the early research does not support this concern, even though, Denise Pope out of Stanford Graduate School of Education published one of the earliest pieces of research around cheating with AI, even though the number of students who cheat, who self-report that they cheat is still ridiculously high at 67%, that the actual number of students, the percentage of students has actually gone down slightly since ChatGPT. And there hasn't been enough research in this area, but I believe one of the main reasons that we're starting to see a decrease in cheating post ChatGPT versus prior is because the first time in a really long time, we're having conversations around what is cheating in 2024? What does cheating look like with AI? As a adjunct professor or a high school teacher myself, or even visiting classrooms, I know that the topic of cheating rarely came up in classes. And when it did, it often came up after the fact. But now we're starting to have conversations proactively around what constitutes cheating. And I think for that reason alone, we're starting to see a decrease in that area, right? Moving on to the presentation, I certainly want to get to the main focus, which is AI and personalization, but just based on your results in the chat earlier, you do want to hear about some of the challenges and some of the benefits that we're seeing. So I want to spend just maybe 5 minutes or so on this section. Number one, as an administrator and someone who works with schools, the biggest challenge for me, I'm driving in the fog right now. I've been through a number of change initiatives in my district, from iPad integration to LMS integration, new student information system, the pandemic, and now AI. I know what this looks like. I know the steps that we need to take to bring people on board and to get consensus and to train teachers and to make sure students are using all of these tools appropriately. I know those things. We all do. but I can't see it clearly because I don't know exactly where AI is going, and sometimes I don't even know where it's coming from. So it's like I'm driving in the fog. I know the road. I've been on the road before, but I just can't make out the stop signs. Right. The second thing, a challenge for me and everybody for that matter, is AI is not perfect and it's built with bias. And there was a recent issue with Google when they released their Gemini, their latest update on Gemini, and people went to Google and they typed in, "Give me 100 images of doctors," and the AI returned close to 100 images of older white men as doctors. And then they said, "Well, that probably doesn't seem right. Let me try it a different way. Give me 100 images of flight attendants," and then returned close to 100 images of young female white flight attendants. Someone might say the AI is trained on millions of pages of information and data. And for a really long time, the majority of people who fit those professions were older white men or younger white women. Okay, that you can make the case for that. But then you get to the third example where people put into Gemini, return me 100 images of people on social services in the United States, programs like welfare, and it returned close to 100 images of peoples of color. So that's obviously wrong because the great majority, close to 80% of the people in America on social services are white. So there's obviously not training data to show that it was justified to return that image. So we still have issues around bias, and we have to always be conscious of that. So that's an issue. One of the things that I constantly want to reinforce to our teachers and parents is this notion of the Elijah effect. And if you're not familiar with it, essentially Elijah was the very first chatbot in 1966. I didn't know that until I read about it, but it's fascinating. It was that long ago. But the Elijah effect is as the AI gets better and more accurate, people have a tendency to falsely attribute human characteristics to this technology. And I've been guilty of this as well, right? But I can just imagine kids going home for homework, teacher teaching a math lesson during the day, kids going home for homework, doing some math problems with AI. They come back the next day and they tell the teacher, "Oh, you had it all wrong. The AI told me this," without the clear understanding that the AI could be wrong and the AI isn't always right and the AI isn't human. That could be an issue. We've all had, my kids, when they were teenagers, we've had debates at the dinner table. And I'd say, "Where did you find that information?" "On the internet." It's true. So I can imagine how difficult that conversation is going to be in the future, where it's not just the internet, it's AI and all the millions of pages of data that encompasses it. Last thing I want to say about some of the challenges is the environmental impact. So I'll try to parse out this infographic on the screen. So when ChatGPT 3 was going through its training modules, the energy and the impact to the environment was so extreme that they started to measure the CO2 output of this. ChatGPT, just to be trained, produced as much CO2 as 112 cars driving on a highway every single day for a year. That's crazy, ridiculous, the amount of environmental impact. As we move into images and video, which is the next evolution of AI, a recent study out of MIT found that just to produce one image, AI generated image, consumes the same amount of energy as charging your cell phone from 0 to 100. So this is one area that's often overlooked that we certainly have to get ahead of. If not, then all this productivity and efficiency will be for nothing because we're just ruining everything that we've built up trying to protect the environment over the years. Quickly, there's a lot of benefits. Outside of being super smart, AI is already 20% more accurate in reading mammograms. The financial and banking system has saved over hundreds of millions of dollars using AI to prevent fraud. The supply chains companies, the manufacturers across the country are using AI to optimize their delivery schedules and their routes and reducing fuel costs and things like that. So there is a lot of benefit to AI. There still remains, and in my opinion, will always remain a lot of challenges related to AI. I wanted to just spend some time in the beginning of today's webinar just to address those things because I know they are concerns for a lot of people. But now I'd like to shift gears and bring my colleague Christine Gumpert onto the screen, and she's going to kick off the bulk of today's webinar, which is using AI tools for personalized learning.
Thank you very much, Sam, and good afternoon to everybody. Again, my name is Christine Gumpert, and my current role is as an instructional coach at Garnet Valley School District, so that's how I know Sam. And I was a high school or classroom teacher for about 15 years in the world of social studies, and then about 5 years ago, right before the pandemic, moved into a tech coach role, which was an interesting phase of life when everyone had to be forced to use technology at the same time. But now the role has shifted a bit. That's one of the silver linings of the pandemic, is that a lot of our late adopters of technology were forced to adopt it. So the technology piece has taken a little bit of a backseat, more instructional design, but with the advent of AI, the technology is back up at the forefront. So it's a really exciting time in my role. I'm also involved with Innovative Learning as an instructional coach and doing things like these webinars, which is a great opportunity to see beyond our school district here and really across the whole country. My educational background, I received both my undergraduate and graduate degrees from Villanova University, which is right outside of Philadelphia. I still, even though I'm not technically working with students every day, I like to keep my hand in with them there. And so I'm the Model UN advisor for our high school. So we take the kids all over the place and let them do their debates. It's such a exciting thing to see kids who are interested in international politics at a young age. And then also to still not quite out there yet, but coming, I'm working with Sam and another colleague, and we are working on a book that kind of shows our journey with AI adoption in our school district. So that book, Navigating the AI Revolution in Our Schools, is hopefully going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So that's a little bit about me. But when we are thinking about personalized learning, because again, that is our focus for today, I think this slide is important because without AI, it's a challenge. If you think about historically, and probably a lot of the classrooms that we attended when we were children, there would be one lesson, 20, 30 kids in a classroom, and that one lesson was hopefully going to get the job done for everybody. One book, one textbook, and just hope for the best. But that's really changed over the last couple of decades. And the expectation now and the hope for our teachers and what they want to do is really to meet each individual student where they are. And particularly with students in our special education population or students that have a 504, it's a legal obligation to meet them where they are. And for the first time, AI is really going to be able to help us make that happen. So some of the tools that we're going to highlight today take what would have been used to a very challenging job for a teacher. For instance, let's say you have 3 or 4 different reading levels in one classroom in front of you. That now is something that teachers are able to do because they can use a tool like Diffit that will show you. They can take a reading, one particular topic, and adjust all of those levels. So this here is one of the lists that we like to show off because our teachers at our district have done such a great job in really maximizing AI from the get-go. So they are doing things like using it for lesson planning, for using it as editors for work, encouraging our students to use it for that type of work as well. But the ones I want to highlight today with our lens of personalized learning, for instance, the lesson planner one, teachers are learning to write prompts into their AI bot for a lesson for a particular subject, but then they're doing a subset of that where they're able to put in the specifications for certain students in their class to make sure that they're getting alternate activities and alternate resources. And of course, they're not putting any personal information about the students in there. They're not putting in their PII. But they are able to create these generic prompts. So every time they put it in, the teachers are getting very differentiated lessons for the students in front of them. Another one I want to highlight is that content creator. And again, we will show this live in a moment, but for teachers that are trying to create materials and a textbook is a little bit of an obsolete way to approach education. And I think Sam's going to talk about that in a little bit, how our district is approached to that. But the teacher is able to take a standard, an enduring understanding, an acquisition skill, et cetera, put it into some of these AI tools and get original content generated back. When our teachers are doing this, they're very well aware of the idea of bias that Sam mentioned, also the concept of hallucinations, which is where the bot just makes up random information. So they know they need to read and vet the content that the AI is generating. But in most instances, the teachers have been pretty impressed with what the bot is creating, and the teachers are then able to take that and turn it around and use that with their students. Another one is the resource modifier. And again, I'll show you a tool in a moment called Diffit, where we're able to take either a reading or a YouTube video, et cetera, and come up with content and come up with ancillary materials that are catered to different levels. And then finally, and this is one that we definitely want to talk about today, is the feedback generator. This idea of timely and specific feedback is so valuable to our students on their learning journey, particularly as they're developing their writing skills. Again, in the limited hours in a day, one of the best things we can do is assign writing to our students, but to be overcome with that mountain of grading, it makes it challenging. So there are some AI tools that can alleviate that workload for us. So as Sam mentioned a little bit earlier, the top 10 challenges for instructors, we took that list and pulled out the ones that we thought were most connected to the concept of personalized learning. So again, the providing timely feedback to students, adjusting content level to student needs, the cost of instruction materials for students, developing original content course material, and also identifying high quality materials. We do feel that these all connect to this idea of personalized learning. So we're going to take each one of these and show you a tool or give you a little bit more information on that. So I'm going to kick us off here, and I'm going to share my screen out, so hopefully you'll be able to see it. And the first tool that I'm going to talk about is Brisk. So Brisk, this is the website. It's briskteaching.com if you're interested in taking a look at it. It is a Chrome extension, and you're able to add that on to your browser, and you can open it up whenever you are working on providing feedback to students. There are a plethora of toys that, not toys, sorry, toys or tools that Brisk provides. But the one that we're going to focus in today is the feedback one. So what I have here is a copy of a document, and I'm going to go ahead and make a copy. And this is focusing on the Boston Tea Party, a revolutionary act. So if you want to think about this, might be a writing assignment that a student has submitted. And we can go through here. We can see it is a short assignment. Again, focusing on the student writing. And this icon down here is my Brisk add-on. It's also up in my toolbar at the top as well. But when I click on this tool, it gives me a couple different options. And the one today that I want to focus on is this box called Giving Feedback. And there are a couple different feedback styles that Brisk provides. One is targeted. It does say the recommended. Google Doc comments aligned to your rubric and standards. The glow and grow is another option, and this would be great if students are turning in projects prior to an actual final deadline. So areas of strength and growth and probing questions that maybe they turn those in and you give them feedback on a rough draft that they can then turn around. There is a possibility of uploading a rubric if you want to, specific to your course, and then also next steps, maybe potentially writing and things like that that the student needs to work on. But just to show you this in action, I'm going to go ahead and click on targeted. I want their feedback in English for our demo today. I could select standards, I could upload a rubric, I can make a grade level specific, etc. But just I'm going to give you a general overview right now. So when I click Brisket, it is going to, AI is currently reading the document, as you can see, and it is going to add in different comments as it goes along. And that's interesting that it went slightly out of order, but that's okay. We'll let it do its thing. And what it's doing as it's reading is it is, again, creating these comments. And none of them are actually published to the students. So that is one thing, because some of our teachers are comfortable using tools like this. Other teachers are not comfortable with AI generated feedback. The one recommendation for our teachers that are not necessarily comfortable with the AI doing the grading for them, which of course we don't recommend that, but the teacher has the opportunity to read each of these comments and decide if that's something that they want to share with the student or not. For instance, if I come up to the top here and I click on the sentence, I see here the comment that Brisk has made on that particular topic. I can read it, I can change it. If it's something that I feel like the student would benefit from and it aligns with my vision for the assignment, I can click comment. Now that is stored and the student will have access to it. If I click on this one here and I decide that's not something that I want to go after or focus on, I can click cancel and that goes away. So again, it's a great chance for teachers to get an assistance with their grading and decide whether or not if they want to use those particular options. The next tool that I want to show off for you here is called Diffit. And I'm going to go back to my home page here. Diffit is, it has a free version. There's also a paid version, but the free version has a lot of great opportunities as well. And this is when we're thinking about how to get those just right materials, as it says there, for our students. And so their topics are using here. You can search literally anything. We could come over to the middle and we could put in a specific article or video URL to have content created. Or I can come over here and I could bring in text and excerpt. I can upload a PDF file, etc. But if I wanted to come over here and put in literally anything, I might put in here rise of the WNBA. Of course, the draft was like last night. It's pretty exciting stuff going on. I can put in this general topic. If I come over here, I can select the grade level. So I'll go 11th grade plus. You can also select a language. So if you have students that speak different languages from you, it's a great way to adapt the materials from English to whatever language they might need. And when I go ahead here and click generate resource, it is a little bar will load here as it goes through the process. Usually just takes a couple of seconds. And I want to show you the output and all the additional materials that Diffit will create for the teacher. And as I said, I put in here 11th grade plus, but let's say I have students that might be reading at a lower grade level. I can regenerate this same topic at a different grade level. So once I create one, I can make multiple versions, and then that way I can hand them out to my students and get the right level to the right student without causing too much distraction or without drawing attention to the students that might need a little additional support. So, oh, there she is, Caitlin Clark, first pick last night. But anyway, you can choose different images here if you want to, or you could have no image at all, because eventually you will be able to print these out or create a PDF, upload them into your LMS. This is the adapted reading. So this one is quite short. I can change the length if I want it longer. I can show sources, which will tell me where this content was coming from. It will give me a brief summary of the main points of the article if I want that. It will provide vocabulary if necessary, and all of these things as the instructor, I can choose to include or not include. There will be a couple multiple choice questions or short answer questions, open-ended prompts if I want them. And then I can also move along and get export to Microsoft or to Word and be able to get additional student activities. Lots of graphic organizers and things like that are good for particular our K-12 population. Sam, I'm going to pass it back over to you for a little more information about some of our other options.
Christine just gave a pretty good demo of the ability to produce really quickly a number of resources for students. So one of the survey data from higher ed was the cost of instructional materials. And as a student, as an instructor myself, I know that this is a barrier to learning for a lot of kids, and also a barrier for quality instruction for a lot of teachers. The cost of textbooks and supplementary resources has just gone through the roof over the last couple decades, which has caused us and many school districts like ours to move to OER, open education resources. And we call it the 3 C's of OER. It's a process we use here at Garnet Valley, and we certainly share that outside of our district as well. The 3 C's are collect, curate, and create. The collect phase is really just getting all of the instructors, all of the teachers who teach that same content area or grade level into the same room at the same time to talk about the resources that they have and they're using with kids. Believe it or not, this may not shock the people here, but people outside of education would be shocked to learn that rarely happens in education, because you're busy teaching and you have 5 or 6 different periods of a day, or if you're an elementary teacher, you're constantly cycling through different content areas with the same students. You rarely have an opportunity, maybe outside a professional development day once or twice a year, to really get with colleagues and look at the resources that you're using. So the collect phase for us was a really important step in the OER process. Not only did it get teachers together to look at the resources, it helped identify gaps in their curriculum where they didn't have open education resources to use. And that led us to the second C, which is curate. And here, we have teachers and we help train them to go and find OER resources, either through OER repositories or places like YouTube or Khan Academy or other online free and accessible areas that you can pull resources from. And again, fill in the gaps of the curriculum, fill in those gaps of where those resources are needed. That brings us to the last phase, the create phase. And this phase was designed to fill in every last one of those gaps so a teacher could theoretically start the school year with 100% of their course materials being OER. And once they're OER, there's a lot of benefits to doing that. You can change the language and things very easily. You can change the text size and the fonts and all kinds of things. The problem with this process for us is the third phase, create, was probably one of the most difficult for our teachers to do, because on top of trying to create resources, and I say resources, it could be activities, it could be interactive activities using technology, it could be formative assessments, summative assessments, it could be instructional videos, it could be textbook material. Creating those resources on top of their teaching load, it was ridiculously expensive. Sorry, ridiculously time consuming. And when you're factoring in time, we're paying teachers to do this, it became expensive. So the 3 C's of OER in theory was working really well for us, except for that last phase until AI. Because as you just saw, a simple example that Christine gave using one AI tool in Diffit was it can now take our curriculum, we can upload it, standards or actual curriculum documents, and have the AI generate those resources that the teacher then can adapt and personalize to their students in a matter of minutes, really, where before it would take us upwards of weeks and months to do something similar. And the quality we're getting is very high as well. On top of the cost for materials, what we also noticed is the human cost of school, right? And not just higher ed. We know that the prices in higher ed, the cost of tuition has skyrocketed, but the cost of public education, K-12, has skyrocketed as well. So what do schools do, whether you're institution of higher education or you're K-12? The first place you tend to cut expenses is in people. Maybe not teachers, maybe, but maybe not, but certainly support. So maybe paraprofessionals, maybe at the college level, teaching assistants, maybe tutors, maybe certain programs. So we started to see that not only the cost for materials was going up, but the human cost was going up. And I believe AI can help us here as well, not to take jobs, but to replace the jobs that people used to do with students. At least in my experience, AI can certainly take that to a different level. So one of the tools that I wanted to showcase today, and I'll do it pretty quickly, is called MindJoy. And if you use the QR code on your screen, or if you go ahead and type in the URL at the bottom there, it's a class join code. When you go to the class, it's going to ask you to set up a free account. If you're comfortable doing that, go ahead and do it. You don't have to. I can demo this. But it's a really interesting concept to adding a teaching assistant to every single classroom. Now, full transparency, MindJoy is a paid subscription. We do not have this at Garnet Valley. It is quite expensive. It's about $500, but I'm hoping this comes down in price. There's also other free alternatives, maybe not as slick, that do the same quality of tutoring, which I'll show you in a second, but still do something very similar. So I want to go to and I'm going to sign in as a demo student, just so you can see what it looks like on the student side. So I set this up as a physics class that I teach. I know nothing about physics. I can't teach it. But imagine if I did know a little bit about physics and I had students in my class who needed a tutor, and I have upwards of 100 students that are on my caseload. It's really difficult for me to personalize the learning for every single one of them. If I had a teaching assistant, I certainly would have an easier time doing that. MindJoy becomes that teaching assistant for me. So I can embed this into my LMS, for example. I can share the link like I did with you. And this is Albert Einstein. I can change the image. I can change the back end of this. I just kept it generic. When you see some prompts there, and tell me a little bit more about the theory of relativity, I'm just going to click on that. It's going to give me that information. Now, there's some settings behind the scenes that allow instructors to upload their own content and also how they'd like the chat to respond. This is just giving the information, but there's a setting in there where it wouldn't necessarily give you information without having a few back and forth questions with the student. And I can say something like, I still don't understand. Please tell me another way. And again, you can imagine this for kids, students, higher ed or K-12. They're home, the teachers at home as well. They're not able to jump on a Zoom, answer a quick question. Parent may not have the ability to support the child in their learning. Having a system like this where the student can interact with the AI, to me, would be really be a game changer for the way teachers can leverage AI to support students. Now, one of the things I really like about MindJoy, which I'm hoping the price does come down, is the instructor side of this, right? Is right now I'm signed in as the instructor. I can set up my own classrooms. I can add different tutors. So if I go to classroom and I click, I have 2 students right now. I have Christine who's in there, and then I use my son as the guinea pig. If I can see what they're doing. So real quick before I do that, I wanted to show you, I'll do this first. So I can see what the sentiment, and then there's tutorials on what these things mean, the learning, the engagement level, things like that. But if I click on Nicholas, I can see what his interactions and questions were. To me, as an instructor, this is really powerful, to be able to see the questions the students are asking the AI chatbot in this case. So I can then adjust my instruction to meet the needs of students there. I'm going to bring Christine back. We have one more tool, I think, Christine, to show you related to research and things like that. And then we're going to finish up with some Q&A, and then we'll set the stage for Thursday.
Of some of the top things that are connected to personalized learning, one of those was creating or finding high quality materials. And as I mentioned before, when we're talking about AI, we always want to make sure that we're vetting the output, because there are sometimes concerns of bias and hallucination. But to be honest, as they progress and become more powerful, the quality of the output is improving drastically. So this bot is called Perplexity. This is one that we use with our students a lot because the terms of use are for 13 and older. Some of the other ones, like a Google Gemini, for instance, is 18 and up. So this one is one we can use in our high school. And so just like other bots you may have played around with, you can type in a prompt. So I put, what are the top 5 places to see in Philadelphia? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this to have it start generating information. And a couple of reasons why I really love this bot. One, I love the fact that it gives its images. And so you can click on these, you can see them. If students are doing a project, maybe on Philadelphia, they could take some of those images and use it in their slides or whatever they're creating. You can also have videos. So these here, video, Philadelphia travel guide, Philadelphia attractions, these are all curated from the web. There also is also the opportunity to generate images if you have the Pro. I found the free version of Perplexity to be more than enough. So the answers here that it's giving me are Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell, Reading Terminal Market. Living right outside of Philadelphia, I would say these are right on point. It's funny because the top 5 they gave me today are different than the top 5 they gave me yesterday, but that's okay. The other reason that we really love this opportunity, or this bot, and why we have it connected to high quality information, is because it does cite its sources, which is not necessarily the case with some of the other top bots out there. So again, you would have to vet these, as we always tell our students. Just because a website's up doesn't mean it's credible. Viator would be one that I'm familiar with. Reddit, I might want to look at that information a little bit more closely, but it's a great way, and it does provide as well opportunities to dive deeper. I can ask a follow-up question. I can use one of their suggested prompts. The other thing that we really like about Perplexity, and this is where we come in with our student use, is if a student is using a bot to go back and forth to supplement and help out with an assignment, Our teachers are asking our students to submit their threads so the teacher can see the interactions the students are having with the bot. And what we're able to do here is come up on the side to share. And when I click on share, I can get a shareable link that the teacher will be able to view. They aren't not able to view my whole history in Perplexity, but they are able to view this particular thread. So I can grab that shareable link, I can copy it, and I can submit it with my project, almost like a new version of a works cited or a bibliography. We're having our students also submit a list of threads when they've used AI to support their learning.
So we're just about out of time. I wanted to at least try to build in a little bit of Q&A. So I think right now, if we can just pause and reflect a little bit. I'm curious to know the group here today, and we have a pretty good turnout. What are you seeing in your work? What are some of the benefits and challenges? I'm hoping we have a pretty wide assortment of higher ed and K-12, but if not, that's okay. I'm just curious on what are the challenges or benefits that you're seeing in your work, and then how are you leveraging AI to personalize your instruction, whether it's similar to what Christine and I talked about today, or maybe there's a different way that you could share. I'd be interested. If you want to come onto the screen, we can move you to a participant. If not, you can just type into the chat, would be certainly fine. So I'm going to read one from the chat earlier. Joanne said, another challenge is no access to resources behind a paywall. Yeah, that is absolutely true. It's super frustrating as well. A lot of these AI tools, when they first came out, were free for everybody because we were helping train their models to an extent. And then they put the helpful tools behind the paywall. And for those cases, you really have two options, right? You either find a new tool, or if you're already committed to that one, you have to pay the subscription price. I can say this, at Garnet Valley, we try to find as many free tools as possible. Diffit, we do have a subscription for them, but I believe their free version is very good. Perplexity, Christine mentioned, is free. We also have a subscription to Magic School AI, primarily for the Magic student side of that, which is very powerful. It allows us to lock down the environment and things like that. Personally, I pay for a pro subscription to ChatGPT. I use that every single day. That will be primarily what we talk about on Thursday for maximizing efficiency. But even the free version there is very powerful. But I find myself going to ChatGPT multiple times a day. And I've gotten to a point now where I kick myself if I don't call on the AI to at least try to make myself a little bit more efficient and effective at what I'm doing. Absolutely, things behind a paywall, frustrating. I get it, but there are a lot of free tools out there, and there's always more coming down the road. The problem with that, obviously, everybody knows, is you don't want to have teachers or yourself moving from one license or one app to a site to a different site to a different site. That gets frustrating. Barbara mentioned just getting started. Awesome. Glad you were able to join us, Barbara. Hopefully you found some value in today's workshop. We'll be back on Thursday again, talking about the efficiency side. If you're just getting started, I think that would be a good opportunity just to see how we use it to help ourselves in the work that we do every single day. Again, it could save us 10 minutes. It could save us 10 hours. We find that it's that wide of a breadth. I had an administrator, a colleague last night, say they were just getting started and they felt like they were so far behind. You know, what I told my school board and when I talk to teachers, like when I look at AI, we're in the top of the first inning of a 9-inning game, right? We're just getting started. There might be one out. You may have missed the high pop, but there's plenty to come. So if you're just getting in now, you're not missing much. A lot has changed. It changes quickly. So the quicker, in my opinion, you get into AI and try to learn as much as you can about it, the better off we'll all be down the road. But certainly getting in now, getting in the summer, getting in next year, is not going to prevent anyone from being where they need to be with this.
Sam, there's a great question in the Q&A that I'd like to address. The question is in reference to students learning to use the generative AI and the concern that once the students know about them, they're going to be using them improperly. And this is something that we have really tried to take head on. And we do use AI with our students, predominantly right now in our grades 9 to 12. We encourage them to use the AI, but before we get in there and have them actually try it out, we're doing AI ethics chats. So we are talking about various scenarios where proper use, improper use, We've got a whole barrage of different scenarios the students have to read and then vote. How much was this bot? How much was this human? And it's really also opening up a lot of great conversations between the teachers and the students. And as Sam mentioned at the beginning of this, in reference to the whole elephant in the room and cheating, our teachers go back 5 years, they would say no plagiarism, and just assuming that the students understood what plagiarism meant. We do have the Turnitin device that will pick up plagiarism. So the students were aware of it in that regard. But this takes a much more nuanced and detailed conversation to have with the kids of, is it okay to use it to brainstorm ideas? Then fine, tell the kids it's okay to do that. Is it okay to help you generate a rough draft? Some teachers are comfortable with that, some teachers are not. Is it okay to take your final draft and run it through an AI tool to help you edit and clean that up like you might do with a Grammarly? So there's lots of different ways that it can be used. So we try to have those conversations with the students before they even get started. We also do have access to the AI detectors. Turnitin, as I mentioned, has one, but they really are not reliable. And even the developers of those detectors claim that they have a high false positivity rate. So if a student's report does come back with a high AI use, then the teachers are not giving out zeros with that, but what they're doing is using it as a conversation starter with the student. It's also another reason why we have the students turning in their threads. The teacher can see the use that the students were using with AI, and they can actually read the conversations between the student and the bot to see really who's doing the thinking there. Is it the student or is it the computer?
That's a great point, Christine. Doug, I'm going to bring you in to send this off. Before I do that, though, I just want to thank everyone for, again, giving up your hour, whether it's lunch or another time during the day. I know everybody's super busy, especially if you're in education. This time of year is always busy. Hopefully you found some value in this work. One of the challenges for Christine and I is we present this information in such a fast, concise way. We leave out all the work behind the scenes that goes into training teachers and working with classrooms of students and doing those conversations around what does cheating look like and things like that. Then when we present a tool and we say kids are doing this and they're sharing a link, there's probably 100 questions that go along with that. What if a kid does this? What if a kid does this? We try to be proactive and we try to have those conversations before we even allow students to access this work. And credit to Christine, our instructional coaches here at Garnet Valley, and the ones that work through Innovative, working with other teachers outside of Garnet Valley, and all the other school districts who are on top of this as well. The work that we're doing now, if nothing else comes of AI, those conversations around cheating, around plagiarism, around ethics, around academic integrity, collaboration, they're invaluable, in my opinion. If nothing comes of AI, which I think we all just don't agree with, but those conversations are certainly useful.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Christine. And thanks everybody who attended. This was a great session. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again on Thursday. And before everybody leaves, I'd like to recognize again our bronze sponsors and our friend. First, it was again Learnix, as well as Edvative Learning, and our friend Rod's Pulse podcast. And if you haven't had a chance, please go to nedla.org, that's nedla.org, to sign up for our next sessions. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for everybody.